Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips. As always, I'm Michael Barber, and we're really happy to have you here on our channel at Grow Schools. For those of you that might be new to joining us on Tuesday Tips, we're here every Tuesday for about 10 minutes, chatting all things challenges that are facing school leaders. I'm going to apologize up front for where I'm at this week. I'm actually attending a conference. And as they say, the show must go on. So we're recording from a little table just outside some of the conference meeting rooms. But yes, the show must go on. And I'm really happy that the show is going on for our guest that's joining us. That'd be Niki Blaker. Niki, it's so good to see your face. Thanks for being here.
And thanks for squeezing me in with your conference. That looks wonderful.
Yes, it should be a good conference, but more importantly, we're going to have a good chat. For those of you that have not seen Niki previously on our Tuesday Tips series, Niki is the design strategist and owner at 5 Sigma Studio and brings an absolutely unprecedented amount of knowledge on design strategy and thinking. And we asked her to come in today because, as some of you may be aware, we're having our Grow Enrollment Summit on Friday, November 8th. You can get all the information your little heart would desire on that summit at growenrollmentsummit.com. As many of you have heard, we've got Nina Reese that's coming in to keynote that conversation, and then 6 to 7 additional and probably more speakers coming in to do a half-day summit on all things enrollment marketing, and Niki is one of those speakers. So we asked her to hop into today's conversation to give us a little preview about her session that she's bringing to us on Friday, November 8th. So Niki, we'll tee up this first question. Your session at the summit is called Digital Front Door. And of course, we're referring to a school's website there. But why do you believe a school's website is the digital front door, and how can it impact enrollment?
Thank you, Michael. And yes, I'm so excited to dive into this more in a couple of weeks. But basically, in today, the world is more digital first. And a school's website is the first thing that prospective students and their families are going to interact with. It's like a virtual welcome mat for your school. And just like an inviting campus sets the stage for that first impression, a well-designed, user-friendly website does the same thing online. And when it is visually appealing and easy to navigate, that's what puts your visitors at ease and gives them a positive feeling and confidence about your school. And it reflects your school's commitment to excellence when you put that effort into the website. But it's not just me saying this. There's actually research and to back this up. There's a 2022 study from niche.com that said 59% of families rely on Google searches and school websites as their first step for researching a school. And once they have that list, 60% of those families on the reviews said that the site influenced their decision, and 54% said school website was the most influential engagement tool. That surpasses in-school visits by 6%. So at this point, the digital impression could very well be more influential than an in-person tour or visit. So basically, your school's website is a virtual ambassador. It works 24/7, and it attracts, informs, and engages all the potential students and families that may come your way.
Yeah, such good points there. I appreciate you bringing not only just your opinion, but the data to back it up too on that question. And I love the expression digital front door because it just feels like an appropriate, if you will, analogy or metaphor. I'm not quite sure what the right term is to describe, why, to describe what, your website needs to do as a school leader as it's attracting families and potential kids. I want to turn to the thing that, one of the things you're very good at is website design. And specifically, I wanted to talk about as you've worked with schools and as you've talked with schools, of course, whether you're at the national conference or on one of our webinars or chats, you've mentioned some elements that a school should prioritize to create a strong first impression. Can you talk about what those elements are?
Absolutely. And just like you've had me before on past webinars or at past conferences, I've talked in the past about like the top 10 considerations and best practices in building a school website. And in fact, we have the user experience guide on the Grow Schools website that covers all those top 10 tips. But I would say if we had to narrow it down to the top 3, most important 3 for a first impression, I would say 1, a simple, intentional navigation with your content hierarchy on your page that allows your visitors to find the information quickly that they're looking for, clear calls to action that the guide is using throughout the site, and within that, prioritizing the mobile experience as you consider all those things. Number two, I would say using a visual design system on your website that is clean, professional, and consistent in your color schemes and fonts and overall style so that your brand is reinforced. That consistency means that whether someone knows you through your social media or on site or a mailer or your website, all of it is one cohesive experience, and you just know that it's coming from the same school. And that builds loyalty and trust when you have that visual design system. And finally, I would say the third most important thing is prioritizing engaging and informative content using a mix of text and images and videos to convey your message, sharing and mixing that with the statistics and the messages about your school's achievements, but balancing that with the storytelling to connect with people on a different level.
Yeah, such good insights there. I particularly want the number two you touched on, the design system and how important it is. My friend Ann Hanley always says, if the logo drops off the website, would they still recognize that's you? And part of that is voice and tone, but part of that is also just, how you bring that brand to life and with certain textures and fonts and graphics and all of those things that your school becomes accustomed to on all the touch points that either a family or a kid or someone in the community is getting to know your school. So such good insights there. Third question I've got for you is around this concept of storytelling. How can schools balance storytelling and essential information on their websites to engage both prospective parents and students?
Sure, because we've talked about this in the past of mixing the statistics with the storytelling, but sometimes it could be hard to know exactly where to start with that. So I'm going to illustrate some specific ways that you can approach this. So using real people and experiences to illustrate that information. For example, if you're listing your academic programs, include student testimonials and success stories specific to that program, or incorporating visuals and movements that bring those facts to life, just like showing videos of students engaging in learning or using interactive infographics. There are actually a lot of WordPress themes these days that have animated milestones and pie charts. So making use of those animations to make those statistics more visually appealing. And just like we learned in school that we all have different styles of learning. Like I'm a visual learner, not an auditory learner. Some people are kinesthetic learners. The same thing applies when you want to consider about thinking about your audience. So the more variety of the types of content you have to even say the same thing, whether that be text, videos, photos, infographics, that helps reinforce the message and get it across to people in the different ways that they digest that information. So ultimately, all of these things, it's about making that connection with a person. There's a person on the other side of that website. And while the facts and figures are important, ultimately, we make a lot of our decisions based on emotion. So we want to appeal to the emotional side of those visiting our website as well.
Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment so much about considering the human that's on the other end of the screen as you're thinking about your website design. Final question, because we're about to hit that 10-minute mark, and we like to keep things somewhere between 10 and 12 minutes every week here on Tuesday Tips. But you mentioned in the top 3 tips when it comes to website design that you touched on at least, the mobile friendliness of a website and the importance of mobile, especially in today's context where parents, prospective families, kids that are, looking for schools and connecting with schools are probably going to be doing it on a device that's, sort of no bigger than, our hands these days. But talk to us about that importance of mobile, and what are some tips that schools can utilize to make sure that their websites are as mobile friendly as possible?
Absolutely. I mean, mobile optimization is a crucial role, not just for experience and accessibility, but also for your search engine rankings. So going back to some more statistics that back things up, the latest statistics show that over 60%, so more than half of all web traffic is coming from mobile devices and not desktop. Additionally, Google and other search engines prioritize mobile-friendly websites. So the more mobile optimized your website is, the higher you're going to come up in those search rankings. So some top tips to ensure a mobile-friendly experience is to think about your website from a mobile-first design approach. So when you start to think about the design, think about it on a small scale first, and then you're building out for the larger screen, as opposed to thinking about that big homepage and then trying to scale it down afterwards. So that way, mobile's not an afterthought. Again, just like the first point I said, is keeping your navigation simple. Create a clear, intuitive navigation structure that works well on small screens. And if you are short on space, utilizing that hamburger menu or other mobile-friendly navigation patterns. And also prioritizing your content. So making sure you're concise, using short headings, short paragraphs, bullet points, so that it's easy to like scroll and scan all that information. And then another thing that some people overlook is how important it is to have mobile-friendly forms specifically. I know we like to collect a lot of information on forms, especially for enrollment and registration and contact, but you want to make sure that they are easy to fill out on your mobile device and that you can click with your hand to fill them in. Thankfully, again, there are mainstream plugins for like WordPress, like Gravity Forms, HubSpot, Contact Form, that are intuitively mobile friendly. So if you are using a third-party service, that's something to definitely test. And finally, making sure your speed and load times are optimized. If it's slow, you're going to lose your audience. So make sure your images are optimized and sized appropriately. Use the tools available to minimize your code and image sizes, and use things like browser caching to improve your load times.
Yeah, such good tips there. And I will say, if anyone's got questions on any of the jargon, any of the acronyms, any of the thoughts that either one of us have mentioned, please feel free to pop them in the comments. We'll make sure somebody from our team, either Niki, myself, or someone else, gets you an answer to those questions that you've had. But Niki, really appreciate this conversation. I can't wait to have you at the Grow Enrollment Summit happening on Friday, November 8th. Of course, Niki will be doing a whole session on Digital Front Door and breaking down all the incredible top tips, tricks, and strategies for school leaders to create some really, incredible websites that convert prospective families and kids into actual students and kids in their school, but also participating in a wide variety of conversations that day at the summit, talking all things enrollment marketing. So we can't wait to have you and our other speakers there. With that, we are right at the almost 13-minute mark, so I'm going to say a big thanks to Niki for joining us, as always, here on Tuesday Tips. We are here every week on our Grow Schools channel, talking the biggest challenges facing school leaders, and we'll be back next week with another conversation. Until then, take care, y'all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you.